There was a guy who died, and you are received at the heavenly gate by Peter. And you lived a worthy life, so Peter opened the gate of the heaven, and the guy entered it. As he entered, he saw his own friend, maybe a very poor fellow, driving a Rolls-Royce car, very rich car, going very fast and saying, "Hi, welcome." And he thought, oh my God, he was a very poor fellow, but driving a Rolls-Royce car in heaven. He was little amazed of that. And as Peter was taking him for a tour of the heaven, he saw another one of the person whom he knew on earth driving another beautiful car, any car, you name it. Maybe Toyota or Chevy or Subaru, and any car he was driving. And he thought, oh my God, he's driving a nice car too. And he was wondering. And he was asking Peter, what is all this transportation all about? And the Peter told him, here the transportation is up or depends on your generosity on earth. You are so generous, then we give you your best car. If not, so anything, any transportation depends on your generosity. So he was wondering what he is going to receive, and finally Peter gave him a Honda motor scooter. Oh my God, only the scooter for me? And he was so sad and and not able to accept. All my friends are having a rich car. That means he was not so generous towards God and people on earth. Anyhow, he was satisfied and he moved along. And after a week, Peter met him and asked him, "Hi guy, how are you doing?" Because he was feeling not that much good after receiving the scooter. And the guy replied, "Yeah, ever since I saw my preacher go on by the skateboard, I'm very happy." He got only the skateboard. Anyhow, it's just a story. But today, there are a couple of good things our God is telling us. Beautiful last weekend in which God called us and said, forgiveness is unlimited. God's forgiveness, there is no limit. Not 7 times, but 77 times God called us to forgive. We all know that. And today God says, I am so generous towards you. There is no end to my generosity. Nobody can limit the way that I would like to give to my own people. Perhaps He shared with each and every one of us His own image and likeness. That's why we have got the innovative power, the creative power to create something from this world. We got this creative power from God, not any other animals or not trees. Only we humans have changed much. Because God is so generous, He shared His image and likeness. But once we receive that image and likeness, we have changed many a thing in this world. Our generosity as a human being is different from the generosity of God. And that's what the first reading, my thoughts are not your thoughts. My ways are not your ways. God says, my ways is different. Perhaps as he was thinking about simple thought, that came to me, 1 hour of work. 1 hour of work. Everybody here is having some work. You are all employed in your life. But each employment differs in salary. If you are working in a Walmart, or if you are working in a Quick Trip, or you are a teacher, or you are a doctor right next in Mayo, or you are a football player. Everybody is wondering who is going to win today against the Saints. Packers are saying at noon. And the football player, 1 hour of salary. Or a guy in IT, what is his salary for an hour? And perhaps there are CEOs in different companies, and every minute, what is their salary? And the 1 hour of salary differs from the human viewpoint, but from the divine viewpoint, for God, everything is the same. For an hour, it is $20, whatever may be the work you are doing. You may be a doctor, you may be a very good preacher, you may be a CEO of any company. Everything is same because you are working 1 hour. This is what God sees. This is what the thinking of God, the ways of God. But as human, we have changed the first thing. And second, God's ways are entirely different. In our Catholic Church, in the tradition, we have holy sinners. Now, holy sinners. Perhaps one of the holy sinner, we always read from his letters in each mass. Most of the weekend masses we read from what he wrote. And who is that name? One holy sinner who became the saint of the Catholic Church. And we read as a second reading every time. Who is that? Most of the second readings are coming from Saint Paul. Saint Paul, and he was a sinner. Nobody can deny that. He was persecuting Christians. And he was guarding the clothes when people went to stone the first saint of the Catholic Church, St. Peter, St. Stephen. And he was on the way to Damascus, not to guard the Christians, but to kill the Christians. And perhaps when Jesus appeared to him, the first question to him, why are you persecuting me? That's what Jesus asked him. So he was a sinner, a killer, an antichrist, but God chose him. That's what our ways are different from God's way. Again, in the history of the Catholic Church, we have another beautiful saint I always enjoy. St. Augustine of Hippo. And he was a sinner, lived a very worst life nobody can imagine. Very, very worldly. But his heart was restless. There is no peace in him. He was not able to find delight in all the things that he enjoyed. No delight, no peace of mind. And finally he came to Jesus. And he read the Bible. And thus the dawn of his life came. And he became a Catholic and became a bishop and wrote about confession and became the doctor of the church, St. Augustine of Hippo, a beautiful saint. Now today we come to confessional, we renew our life. And the same is St. Augustine. He said confession is much more important. A beautiful saint. They are called holy sinners. There are so many in our Catholic Church. And God chooses them because his thoughts are not our thoughts and his ways are not our ways. And perhaps there is another thing added to that today we are called to think. Nothing happens by accident or by luck. Many a time we think, it's my luck, I got it. No. It's my luck, we were married. No. Nothing like accident or by luck. Everything has a purpose and a meaning to it. And that's what God calls us understand. Because everything flows from the generosity of God. We may not be realizing it, but it flows. That's what the gospel today, all about the generosity of God, the wonderful story. And in this story, we need to remember a significant facts. First, the owner himself goes out in search of the workers for his vineyard. Usually, owners, they don't go out. Especially during the time of Jesus, it is unheard of. Owner, that's a landowner. He is a very rich man. He doesn't go to the streets to look for workers. But this landowner goes. That means the landowner represents God. God comes out to meet us in our street, in our homes, the first. Then God comes multiple times. Not that I will come only one. God comes multiple times. That's what the story is about. Morning 9 o'clock and noon and 3 o'clock, even at the end of the day 5 o'clock, God comes to us again and again and again, trying to help us, trying to give His grace. And He comes many a times. And the most important thing, at any time of life that He comes, He hires us. No, it's evening at 5 o'clock. There is only 1 hour left of the work. I am not hiring you. You don't belong to me, He doesn't say. Yesterday I said this. I believe this strongly in my life always. Because whenever I read the first reading of today's, the first words, seek the Lord while He may be found, call Him while He is near. When I read that sentence, I always say to myself, this meditation. Seek the Lord while He may be found. That means, whatever may be your life, doesn't matter. Whether you are a good person or a bad person, or you have committed some sins, or terrible sins in your life you have committed, doesn't matter. As long as before your death, even at the last minute of your death, you ask for forgiveness to God. That's much more important. There is no limit to generosity of God. Even before the last minute of my death, if I ask for forgiveness, my Heavenly Father will forgive me and will take me to heaven. And that's what Jesus did to the repentant thief hanging next to Him on the cross. Lord, I am a criminal. You are a holy man. Remember me when you come into paradise. And Jesus said, today you will be with me in paradise. So, when we are called to seek the Lord while He may be found, and I believe there is no forgiveness in heaven. God is good and conditional, forgiving, generous, but at the door of heaven, I believe there is no forgiveness. It is either heaven or hell. So while we live on this earth, we are called to seek the Lord and ask forgiveness, because God is ready to hire us, or ready to forgive us at any time of our life. If we don't ask Him, then we don't get it. And this is what Jesus tells us through the gospel readings today. And finally, Jesus also tells us, are you so envious? I am generous. We people many a time become envious of things, because others have better life, others have better car, others have better house. But God says, no, don't be envious. Come to me and live with me and see my magnanimity. If you ask of me, if you work hard, you will get it. And that's what God says. And let us not be so envious, but though sometimes we are very poor, that's the beauty of life. Now, even though we are poor, let us not be envious. What we have, let us share. And that's what Jesus again said when the poor woman put only 2 coins in the offering, and Jesus said, she has given everything. Why? Whatever that she had, she was able to give with her heart to the Lord. And that's much more important. Let us not be envious towards people, but let us be content with what we have, because God has hired us at any point of life. He is on our side all the time. He is not saying that you don't belong to me. At any point of your life, even before your death, if you pray to Him and ask Him, He is ready to grant what you ask, because His generosity has no limit. But we have to ask. And one thing again, let us not be envious of God's generosity. The more we are generous, the God also will be more generous to us.